If I do, miracle.
So that's it.
Yeah.
We have more, and I think we will be starting on time. During your session, we will close the coffee so people come to the session.
Okay, and there's not that many people.
That's the forum. There is so many things there.
Hey, very welcome.
How are you doing?
Can I ask you to come here? If I talk like this, it's a small group. If we get more people, I can. I know it goes like this. Yes, it works. Ja, ja, ja. Je ziet er nou anders uit.
Ja, ze heeft opeens een tan, dus volgens mij heeft ze tijd gehad om in de zon te
Oh.
zitten. Ze zag er heel bleek uit in de eerste dag.
Okay, let's. Oh, it works. Holy shit. Maybe you can move up a little bit. Yes, please join us. We will. Yep. Yeah, no, I don't have a presentation. So we need to get rid of this sir, and then that's fine. Thank you for coming. I think it's the most important topic here on the forum. But that's only me. But it's okay. Gentlemen, oh, it's okay. You can, whatever you want, if you want to join. I'll use this. Okay, so I have to use this. Fine. No, she cannot. But Hey, it works.
Okay, I use this. Hello, my name is Daniel. João is my business partner, and we are from Brazil. We have a startup called Água Camelo. Direct translation will be camel water, but Água Camelo. And we develop different kinds of projects to promote access for safe drinking water for different types of communities, from indigenous communities to favelas to riverside communities, so all over Brazil. Nowadays we have impact more than 60,000 people in these last 4 years. And our business model is selling this project, the sponsorship of this project for private companies. Not only the projects, but we also sell technology. So we found different type of technologies in the market and that are not common in Brazil, and we sell them for example, in emergency cases. Like now in Brazil, I don't know if you're aware, but in the south of Brazil, there's this huge crisis, water crisis, flooding crisis going on, and we sold more than 1,000 filters for different partners to implement it there. And there is this struggle to find private partners and private clients, but also we know that once we get to the government, to the public sector, we can reach way more communities and way more people, with our impact. But for that we need maybe patent products or different type of solutions that the government doesn't really understand, mostly because they are used to that traditional ways of treating and bringing water to communities that don't work in isolated indigenous communities, for example. So they need innovation, they need other type of solutions that we have, but it's hard for them to understand that there is innovation and that there are other technologies in the market. And it's what every government says is like, have you ever sold to a government once? Because then it will be really easier for us to buy from you. But no one wants to take the first step, So that's one of the challenges we have with the public sector.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. I'm Lilian Coelho. I was born in Brazil, but 25 years ago I moved to France, and then I'm representing the French delegation. I work actually by the Group Aritech, Water for All, and you have a training program for managers around the world, and then in education like Delft, you are in the same field. And my big problem is that you work in 50 countries. You have the managers that came from Africa, Asia, Central America, and how to find the funds for them to pay the training program. Because what you do, you have no profit, and what you do is giving classes for the managers became directors, and you have 15 years in France, and then we have 282 managers that already graduated with us, and a lot of them became the MD. For example, in Indonesia, PDM. The MD is a manager that came from a group, the chair of Water for All. And then you have a lot of success story. And then our found is not for us, but how you can teach our alumni and then our future trainers to get money to come to make classes with us.
That's for the capacity building.
That's
yeah,
capacity
very good.
building.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm Sbusiso. I'm from South Africa. I've been to Delft once, I think in 2022. So I just came here to listen. I haven't thought about being in the project. But our main interest has really been how to partner with international institutions in the water sector, including training our graduates, partner them with international organizations like Delft to do their projects within the water sector and develop themselves in the water sector. Yeah.
And with linking with what purpose? I mean, for capacity building?
Capacity building,
okay.
yes.
Hi, I'm also Kirk, and I actually work with the World Water Council's Youth Mission, but I'll also share my experiences from my, let me say, my other work, because I study as a PhD student at the Technical University of Munich, and my research area is on urban river restorations.
The microphone a little bit
Yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah. So I have experience from Munich and also a city that I'm working in Ghana called Kumasi. And in Munich, the city by itself could raise about $30 million to restore one of the rivers, the Isar River. And the objective was to mitigate flooding and also to offer other benefits, recreation and others. And then in this city in Ghana, I'm also working in Kumasi. It's also a similar challenge with urban flooding. And there it's more complex because you have squatters and informal settlements living also in the buffer area. So we've initiated conversations for urban river restoration in one of the rivers. And the stakeholders like it. The opportunities are quite huge. The legislation supports it. Even the people living in these catchments, they are welcoming it. But the big problem is the money to do it. And so, and another complexity is
Kirk,
It-
sorry to interrupt you, Kirk, but I have a question. If you say the opportunities are quite big, what do you mean?
what I mean is, if say there was money to restore the place into, for sure, restore the quality of the river, but also maybe create a floodplain park or something for recreation, people will love it. And this city is also, people call it the cultural capital of Ghana. So it has a lot of tourists visiting all year round and all. And the location of this river I'm talking about is also right in the center of the city. So it's a prime location. And if it were to be restored, there are so many...
I immediately have a question for you. Did you talk to financiers about this? Because there are companies who could be interested in, there's tourists, there is a city center, shops. I mean, they could, they benefit from this, right?
So the engagement that we did so far were with local, let me say, financiers, possible financiers, and it wasn't very positive so far. So I'm really curious to see any other way we can do this, because I think the potential is really big. Yeah.
Thank you for now. Yeah. Let's go this way. Welcome, gentlemen. You will get the mic as well. So start thinking. Well, the question is, because we're talking financing from private sector and linking it to projects, but we are here listening to what type of projects are there and what was the struggle find. So please.
Hi everyone, my name is Pamela Bundi from Kenya. I work with Finnish Mundial in Kenya. So for us, there's a big mismatch between access to finance or the available finance and the target clientele. And why I say a mismatch is that the financial institutions find it more attractive to offer financial solutions to, let's say, entrepreneurs or high net individuals. So for them, they'll always get finance a bit more easily because in terms of credibility, in terms of them securing the loans, it's much easier. But then you also find that the same individuals or entrepreneurs who are a lot more exposed to available funding or grant opportunities. So they're also not willing to take repayable capital because they know what is available out there that is not payable. Now, on the flip side, communities that would require some kind of soft financing are the same ones who are found to be highly risky. So financial institutions in normal cases will stay away from them unless they get, let's say, capital that has subsidy attached to it or some kind of guarantee fund. So that kind of mismatch makes it makes financing a bit more difficult within the sector. Though I must say we're also at a good place as a country because the capital is available. The financial institutions are ready to venture into this space. Just that the clients who really need the financing are the same ones who are having a challenge in accessing it. Thank you.
Thank you. And one thing I pick up from what you're saying is even people who want to get finance, yeah, they can get subsidies, right?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
totally kills any development in what you can get. Yes, please. You get the mic, Eileen.
Hi everyone. So I'm Eileen. I come from the Philippines. I'm actually doing a little work for a Dutch-funded project with the water districts, number of water districts. So water districts are those, shall we say, water companies, but these are all owned by government. So I think the biggest challenge that we have with them right now in terms of financing is, one, because we are in a drought period, so access to clean water, and that this one is very, very, very expensive for us. And the water districts are not big enough. They're very small because they are connected to, shall we say, municipalities. So they don't have, shall we say, enough capital, and maybe in terms of return of investment, it will also be not a good, shall we say, proposal for banking institutions. So bulk water supply is an issue. Sanitation, wastewater also is an issue. But so this means big infrastructure projects, and the water districts do not have that kind of, shall we say, capital to infuse. So we were thinking maybe of private PPP model could be an option. But again, water is not a very sexy shall we say, topic for financiers because they don't see really the return. So I think it's we need to be able to come up with a proposal wherein if we involve private sector or even the financiers, there has to be what's in it for them. So making that kind of, it's aside from being, water is needed by everybody, you can also earn a little bit there. So that's what I'm getting maybe from you, financing. But I do agree there's too much, shall we say, funding, meaning development grants for this sector. It needs to be moved forward wherein it becomes like a good business case.
And maybe I can immediately say something about this because Philippines is actually pretty well developed when it gets to PPPs. You have a lot of them. And I heard that also back, repayment models. It's true, and the financiers always want to see how they get their money back. And this is just, in the end I will ask, but one thing, what we also start to notice, there is a fear factor creeping in now in the financial sector when it gets to water. Because financiers, they have a portfolio of other businesses. If the water is not managed well, if that's not done very well, there are starting to have risks. For example, there's drought, other companies within their portfolio, they will fail. So now, instead of the business model where they can earn money, there is the other side of it. If you don't do certain things, you will run a risk of losing money.
Yep.
So just one thing, if you're looking for money, I just shared it with you now, is also thinking of, wait a minute, maybe we can find an angle where we can bring in a bit of the fear factor, because that also draws attention. If it doesn't work with a positive story, maybe it can work with a more other story. Same if in Kisumu, if you can say, wait a minute, it will be I don't know, because I don't know your case very well, but we need this because it's water retention, it's water storage. If you don't do that, within 5 years, there will be nothing, there are flowers or whatever. So you better do this. It's just a bit of a thing which is really starting to come, and climate, of course, is kind of helping this argument. We don't want to use it, but anyway, let's see what we have. Can you? The question is, you don't. Welcome, sirs. We were just discussing I see also some gentlemen from other countries. What struggles you have to get projects financed? Because everybody, there are 18,000 people here, and they all come with projects. And I go as a banker, okay, nice, all these projects. Who the hell is going to pay for these projects? So what we are trying to get a feel for is a bit of the struggle. Do you have projects which you want to get financed and you struggle with it? Yeah? So maybe we can hand the microphone to you. Share us.
Thank you for giving me the floor. So I'm Hassan from the Youth Parliament for Water of Chad. And as project in my country, we are struggling in a project in the Lac Chad Basin. The Lac Chad Basin, as you know, is disappearing. And we as youth, we are like youth from the 4 countries that are the Lac Chad Basin. We just met before coming here to the 10th World Water Forum to discuss about what kind of solution, what's the priorities for us as youth to save our land. So from this meeting, from this dialogue, we get a project that we titled The Water Fruits. The Water Fruits is a project that will help us to help communities around the Lac Chad Basin to have best practice in agricultural practices and how to have modern ways to make fish for the fishers as well. So this is a project that we come with here in order to see how we could go get some good people to help us in order to implement it in our communities. Thank you.
But that's implementation. Who's going to pay for it?
Yes. Please?
Who's going to pay for it? Who will finance these projects?
We didn't have anyone to finance it, but just as youth, we
you can do it yourself.
We have this project in order to implement
okay,
it. But we are looking for financial partners. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody who joined us want to share something? Maybe the gentleman over there. I don't know. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'm called Andrew from the Ministry of Water Resources in South Sudan. Yeah, one of the challenge we're having really is, sustaining our water infrastructure, our water utility. We have a utility that is public, being managed by the government, but of course, being a public utility means that the government has to inject, money for the operation and maintenance of the utility. But there are times when the resources are not there. The resources,
and the resources is finance, money.
Yeah, money. It is not there, and you find that, for the utility to run on its own becomes challenging. You find that water is not being supplied, so efficiently to the people who needs it. And we are looking on models that we can use that can really operate and maintain the utility in an efficient manner. And this is what we're trying to find out in this. What are those other models?
And
can it be, privately, managed, or are there examples of, public utilities that are really, self-financing itself? Do we have them? And then these are things that we wanted to find out how we can improve it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this is one of the, you don't hear very often also that utilities are open to private sector involvement. Because very often, and yesterday we had that discussion, when the private sector gets involved, there is fear. There is fear that the tariffs will go up. So what I notice very much is that their door is closed on both sides. The door is very often closed on the practitioner side, on the utility side, because they fear to go to they don't go to the private sector because they are afraid that then the prices go up, the tariffs. And the public sector, the financiers don't want to work with water sector because they say water sector too complicated. we don't understand, too much risks, we can do other things. So now in IHE, and that's another question I want to ask you. It's a university, but we are thinking on how can we bridge that gap? How can we make sure that if you go to the government of Brazil, that at least they understand and they think we shouldn't fight them. How can we incorporate them? How can we work with them? And you are already very open to this, and you're very clear about we need models for this. So there's two ways we are thinking within, and this is not a pitch for IHE. This is just to understand what we need to do. Where can we start with your struggles, and how can we help to come up with things that could help you? So one of the things you said, for example, we need models. You need to know how you can do this. So that's one thing. How can to help you? It's not like you need to be able to go to financiers yourself, yeah? And financiers need to be able to find you. How can we help you? Is it a course? Is it a training? Is it tools? How can we help you to give you the confidence and the stories? I gave you something about the negative side of maybe flip your story. Yeah, don't only tell the business side, but also talk about the fear factor. But how can you be helped to close that gap? Is there anybody who can give us some ideas on this? We're thinking of a center of practice, for example, but it's a bit theoretical, yeah. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe with your problem, you could just call us and say, "Hey, we struggle with this. Help us with making a pitch," for example. That could be one thing, right? I'm just thinking aloud, and I would really like to hear your things. How can we help you to get? Yes.
Financing water always became an interesting topic. My background is from irrigation. I just want to ask, do you have a model? Sorry. Do you have model to example us about financing water beyond blended finance? In my opinion, blended finance is blended between government and private sector, maybe, or not.
Okay, that question, and then the answer is yes and no. There are companies out there who are having now models to bridge that gap. Basically what it is like you get it's a tool, and in this tool all kinds of questions are asked. Yeah? If you fill out that tool, it gives all the information that the financiers need. Yeah, so that will help you to, they cannot, because that's also another thing which happens if you want a loan, they ask you a zillion questions, yeah? And if you don't answer these questions right, it's a nice way to send you home, yeah? They say, okay, fine. So, but we have tools, but it's not easy, yeah? You will need, because gathering this information is also not easy. So one of the things we're thinking about is giving courses on these tools. Would that help you? Something like that, if we would start doing these type of things.
Maybe I can search it from internet or from what site about the model?
It's a good one. Yes, online. I think you're trying to suggesting, hey, that would be very nice if we could do that online, correct? Okay. The answer is yes, that's one of the things we can do. Another thing we can do, and that's a question, does it help you if we gather cases? For example, examples. Hey, you're struggling in Brazil, you're struggling in your country. If we have a center of practice where there are cases from around the world, so you can look into this database and you say, hey, wait a minute, in Guatemala or in Kenya, they did a similar thing. We can learn from that case. Is that something that could help you?
I think a problem that you might encounter with something like this would be like, because each government will have each different policies, right? So it will be kind of hard to make this translation of a project that worked in Guatemala to Brazil or Netherlands or something like that. But the cases might inspire to get into something. But the thing that I was thinking about is might be a good help would be if you guys put up online a kind of acceleration program or something like this.
What program? Sorry?
Acceleration program, development of a program with some kind of projects, startups of projects all over the world, and you can really go with each of these projects and try to help them to connect with the government, build 10 cases and then put it up online and do another round, and then like after some couple of years you would have like a bunch of knowledge, a bunch of data, and that would help you guys to achieve other people, something like that.
No, thank you. It's very interesting comment, because also in IHE there are people who look at laws and policies in countries. So if there is something happening in Kenya, and maybe there are people who can help in translate that. Hey, how does that work for Brazil? I don't know, but it's a very interesting one. Any other ideas? I think you have an idea, Kirk.
So I think maybe communication to really understand how, from the financier's point of view, what language they would appreciate, what things they would want to see. So I think training on that could also help, and also even how to communicate the vision more clearly or more convincingly. And then as something I was also thinking was, I think I lost it a second ago. When I remember, I'll share it.
Okay, we'll come back to you when you remember that one. No, and this is actually, Kirk, you make a very interesting comment as well, because there is a big gap between, or in language, you'd think you speak the same language, you're not. I mean, the word PPP means a totally different thing in the practitioner's world as it is in the banking world. So speaking the same language, that's another one. And it's interesting because I see that Josine joined us, and maybe it's really nice to give Josine a bit of the floor. Why would I want to do that? And I'll prepare that one for you. We asked about struggles the practitioners have to obtain finance. But in practice, there is a lot of people and projects that need finance, but there is a lot of also money that looks for projects where you can put your money in, and they struggle as well, because they say, no, your project, I have money, but this doesn't work for me. So my question to Josine, can you say something from the financier's perspective on the struggles to find good projects? Yes?
Thank you, and happy to be here, just jumping in, and thank you, Jacqueline, for this opportunity. So we started to work with financial institutions for them to start building up portfolios in water and sanitation. And it's simply the fact that, they didn't actually know the sector, they didn't know exactly what kind of companies are there, and therefore they also didn't understand the risks involved. And so with a number of banks in Kenya and Ethiopia and Senegal, Cambodia, we've started to build up their portfolios, helping them in the design of the products, but also making sure that, internally they have their stuff in order so that they're able to report on what kind of companies, are applying for loans and what is the success rate, but also, to understand the risk and the non-performing loans in their portfolio and why is it. And Jacqueline, what exactly do you want me to elaborate on?
No, this is actually very nice, because what is the case is that from the practitioner's side, you struggle to talk to governments or to financiers, and from an IHE perspective, we're looking at capacity building, right? And we talked about what can we do. Josine, what you just explained is how you are building the capacity at the financier's side. because also there they don't understand the sector. So
and from the practitioner point of view, and especially if you're working for a government, I think it's extremely important to understand that if we jointly want to reach the SDG targets, we cannot only depend on public and philanthropic capital. It's just simply not enough. Even if we deploy it 100% right, then still there's this huge financing gap. And that at that point I understood that, we need to use grant funding that we have at hand, whether that is public or philanthropic, in a catalytic way. Because, if we work with banks and we put in $1, the leverage that we create by them providing financing to entrepreneurs in the water and sanitation space is often 6 times as much. So it's just a simple but very smart way of using grant funding, and we just have to.
No, thank you very much, and I'm really happy that you joined us on this. And we're now, because I'm here on behalf of IHE, and really looking where we can build that capacity. And it's not only with you, because we had some examples of where people are struggling. Yeah, but that's from their side. But we need to get to the counter side as well, because otherwise it remains a black hole. Any other? Thank you for that.
Jacqueline, can I just say,
Yes,
what I understood is that at IHE there's a lot of government people that are trained, isn't it, within.
Correct.
And so my ask to government employees is also to make sure that law is enforced, and that will benefit banks in building up their portfolios. Because when I travel with banks into the country and meet with their customers, what I see is that often I met one enterprise that was drilling a borehole and having a mini grid on top of that. His neighbor found out that it's profitable business. So as a neighbor, he also started to drill. But by law, you need to be 1 kilometer away to ensure that the resources are properly used. So if that is not the case, the financing of the banks are at risk. So the banks will then come to the government and say, look, you need to enforce law and regulation, because otherwise our assets are at risk. So if you want to facilitate financial institutions in your country to, do what they're good at, then also make sure that you do what you are good at. Because if you do not uphold the law, their assets will be at risk, and they will not be part of the solution of the government. And you need the private sector, because alone you cannot do it.
Thank you very much. Very good addition. And maybe, I see that the gentleman has left who were talking about utilities. No, you're very nice that you're there. But you make a super good point. The thing is, if you look at the governments, then they implement currently a lot themselves. And they know how to do that. They think they know how to do that. They don't even totally understand that sometimes private sector can do it better than they can do it. But if you involve private sector, and I'm looking at you guys because I know you're doing that, then the role of the government changes. Yeah? So, and that's what you're talking about. And yesterday I was at a session, one big company, they said very clearly to government officials, you own the resources. We will never own the resources. You are responsible for the resources. We distribute. Yeah? And you have to take your role. You have to give us, you monitor, you make sure that we stay within the conditions. But we don't cheat the people. We can talk about tariffs, we can talk about all, but the rules change. So that's part of capacity building as well. Especially also on the practitioner side, on the government side. So I think that could be also something that IHE can take into account a lot. Thank you very much for that addition. My watch, I don't know why, but it died on me. Luckily not me, but only my watch. I have no clue what time it is. Anybody, because I want to ask you, I also heard from that lady, I think if IHE does something, I think just let me get a few hands. Would you if we do online courses and online tools, you know, because we talked about online tools stuff, interest in joining these type of things online, is that of interest to you? Are you thinking, yeah, I see hands. Okay, so that works. Or I can also understand that you would like to do it in person, you know, and then for a week we can work with you on your plan, you know. You come in with your problems, with your struggles, and then in 1 week we work with you on the tools, on developing your plan, on preparing the pitch, on figuring out how it adapts to Brazilian law or to other laws. I think that's a trajectory which would take longer time. That would be more a kind of a week. Yeah, and it's not online because that doesn't work online. Yeah, so you walk in with a struggle and hopefully you walk out with a plan that all the contacts of Josine can finance. Is that something you would be interested in? Or you have some suggestions here? You have suggestions? Yes.
I think that maybe the best option would be to have both, because maybe 1 week is too little of a time to make everything work, and to get maybe because the problem might be that we don't know the law in Brazil and we don't know how to approach them. So it might be the best way to like have a pre-online course, and then like to figure it out what is the things that you need to know to then go to a presential an in-person class, and then like really focus on that for a whole week, you know, because then might work better.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Yeah, any other suggestions which we can take into account? Oh, I saw that gentleman also raising your hand, and you said yes, I can use that. Maybe you can explain a little bit more how and why.
Yes, as you know, in Indonesia we have more and more now hydropowers to build, and we want to encourage people to go beyond the blended finance, and not so many people are aware of this. So with this kind of tools, maybe people will understand more how to make use of that tools and other experience in other countries. We have a lot of additional dams to be built, maybe around 100 more dams in the next 10 years. So maybe you can support us with that. Thank you.
Very good, yeah. And get people out of their comfort zone or the zone that they know. Maybe one thing on Beyond Blended Finance. Why is this called Beyond Blended Finance? And that's my total personal opinion. There is no such a thing as blended finance. Yeah? The blended finance, how they would say, it's public funds and it's private funds. And then you throw it in the blender and then here's your money. No, it doesn't work like that at all. You know, it's not blended. It's very careful layers. Yeah, it is a layer of public funds, which takes a lot of risk. And then on top of that is another layer of one financier. And there comes with a whole book of conditions for that financier. And then there's another layer, and you have to negotiate every layer. And sometimes there are 6 layers on top of each other. It's not easy financial structuring. And if you call it blended, it sounds very easy, that you throw it in a blender and then it's done. No, it's not. So, and it's not that you as practitioners have to fully understand how that works, because there are people who do understand that. But what is important is that you know where to go to get that knowledge. And it's very important that we have Aqua for All and people like Josine who also work on the financier side to make them understand what the sector is. So, yeah, that's I think what we can do is kind of also with IHE and partners, because let's be honest, this is also, IHE doesn't know enough of water, of the financing part. So there is a lot to do. And this feedback is really helping us. Any more questions, Sarah? Okay. It's not like I really, unless you have some other good idea for us, Questions, questions, remarks. I'm just going around. Welcome. Questions, remarks. Sir.
Sorry, I have just a small question. I don't know if I don't know. Sorry. Okay. My question is that I will take an example. In my communities, like in my country, if there are some projects that are like held by young people, they look for example, for financial. These young people access to financial, even blended or non-blended. So we have this issue of like getting to reach best. Doesn't work. Sorry. It doesn't work. Sometimes it's stopped. Yeah. So, okay. Sometimes it's not easy for us to reach the ideal partner in order to have, if it can be like blended or not blended finance from the government or the private sides. So for us, like some developing countries, what is the best mechanism? What is the best ways to get access to this blended finance?
Basically, you have a very simple question. Where the hell do I go to? Who do I contact, right? Yeah. No, that's a very good question as well, because that's not so obvious. So I don't have the answer, but that's something which we can also take into account. Yeah.
Because it's something new for me when you talk about blended finance.
Yeah.
For example, in my case, I know that finance it comes from private sectors or public. But when we talk about blended finance, for me it's new. And I don't know if what is the mechanism about. I was not there from the beginning, so this was it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I think indeed, Jacqueline, as you're mentioning, these kind of questions are very important for people to understand, right? My question to you is, where are you from? Are you a government representative?
No, I'm a youth representative. Yes.
So sometimes I also feel like, let's not make it so confusing and talk about blended finance. In the end, it's access to capital. And the way it is structured, it's often not what governments or enterprises should be worried about. Because it's often at the back end of investors that we structure it for them to be comfortable in providing simple loans to enterprises. And when you're an entrepreneur, you do not need to worry about blended finance. You just want working capital. You want, an investment loan. And it's our responsibility to make sure that the banks are able to grant you that loan.
I think you say it in a very simple way. If I access to capital, in my home it's access to water. I have no clue about the whole thing which goes behind that. And basically it's the same thing. You don't have to have that headache. You want the water tap in this case, and money coming out. And there is a whole thing behind it, but it's not your headache. Others can solve it. Thank you. Yeah. If there are no more questions, no more. Oh, Kirk, you remembered it. Okay, good.
Thank you. So my challenge is I'm working with nature, and it's perhaps a suggestion, but also a question, which is how can I or we show the value of nature for the financier to show that it's also profitable. In other words, how can if say we have an idea to pitch to a financier, something around nature, how do we communicate it or share it in a way that they can see the value and the profitability and have the inclination to invest in it?
Thank you for the question. This is not a good one. I think that one is better. It's I would say the $1 million question, but I think this is the $1 billion question. And let me answer it in a very simple, in words of today, where we are today. No, there is no profitability in nature, and a financier will not. It's very difficult. But what you can do, there are two ways you can go if you want to do nature projects. And maybe others have some ideas, but this, for example, let's say coastal protection with the mangrove trees, right? No, nobody is going to finance mangrove trees. So in itself, that's not the pitch. But what you could say, hey, we do coastal protection. By making sure that we do that, your business is safe. Yeah, at the other side. So you pay for this. Yeah, we will increase your tax. So that's one thing. The second thing is, and that's actually a real life example with mangrove. Yesterday somebody told me that from Mexico. He said what we didn't realize is we did this mangrove forest, and now we have 3 times as much fish in our mangrove forest. So their income is now coming from fish. So when you're talking about nature restoration, rewilding, all this stuff, by the terms of today, you can't say profitability of nature. You have to look at how can I very smartly link nature to models that include repayment models. Yeah, that's the fish. It's the fear factor. The fear factor is related with flooding. Yeah, if you don't want to get flooded, you pay. Yeah, so this is really smart thinking about your project. Maybe you can grow flowers somewhere which you can sell. I have no idea. Yeah, does that answer your question a little bit, Kirk? Good. Oh, Lilian, you also.
My question is directly. When you need money, you need to make a pitch, build confidence, you have a very good project, you have a profile, and you look for the bank, the private sector. What, in your point of view, is the key, is the difference that we can have then to convince to get the funds, the financial? You know, when you have so many people here around, you are all here looking for money to develop, but what in your a specific point that is the decision maker for you to accept or not a request of finance?
Actually, I hear a lot of, similar kind of concerns here, because actually it's almost the same question as you've posed, like how do I present my case to get access to capital, whether that's from a bank or from a grant provider, etc., etc. So I think that as part of the course, it's important to address it, that first and foremost, because, we can be here for so many more days answering all the individual questions when, and giving you examples of how to pitch. But, if I make it a little bit more and generalize it, it is about how do we speak each other's languages. So, how do we get a bank to understand the water sector in particular, isn't it? And that is also the reason why we set up programs with individual banks, because for them to understand what the risk involved is and what the opportunities and the income generating activities behind water and sanitation programs are, that for them is unknown often. So, if you look at financial institutions, they often know and understand agriculture or renewable energy or, regular SME financing. They have not yet completely embraced water and sanitation as a sector. So that requires time and effort. And also smart thinking from our ends, because, we cannot teach every individual bank. So we need to develop programs and work with other entities that can help understand the water sector a little bit better, isn't it? And I think, so I try to zoom out a little bit on all the questions and then combine it to IHE.
No, thank you. And that's really, we know that there's a zillion questions. That's why we want to set up these courses, so we can really systematically start to address them. Yeah, and you're not the only ones who have that, but you're the ones who realize it, to be honest. Yeah, a lot of the others just go to the government. You want, yes, please, be my guest.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm from Bacolod City, Philippines. We sent 2 engineers to IHE Delft. We have Engineer Janelini Mora, Engineer Gino Amantilio way back then. And we came up with an idea of how to gather financing for environment from our commercial establishments. I'm Attorney Juliana Carbon. I'm the former General Manager of Bacolod City Water District. So we have this program of assessing commercial establishments with production assessment charge. And this charge from the commercial establishments, we put this in a restricted fund, and the fund is used for environment purposes. From the REACH, we adopt the REACH to reef approach. So we grow trees in the watershed, we grow mangroves, and it's very successful because the commercial establishments, they find it notable and worthy. So we're able to generate millions just to help our city with the environment program. And in return, we get a lot of course, groundwater. But the problem in our city is that only 6% of the water coming from the rain goes to the ground. Only 6%. All the rest is wasted, and it goes to the sea. And then because we are in the Philippines, sometimes we lack data in knowing whether the groundwater is still there or whether our city is already a sinking city because of the over-extraction of the groundwater. That is what I'm sharing. And thank you to Delft for accommodating our scholars.
Thank you, and you're welcome. And it would be nice. I also would like to hear more about your case. No, thank you very much about sharing that example with us. Maybe you triggered me with one thing. Maybe I wanted to share it, and it shows how on the financing side, financiers, water is not in their DNA at the moment. For example, I worked for ING. ING is a large bank in the Netherlands. They're international, and I had car manufacturer or car distributors in my portfolio. And if I had an investment proposal, it goes to the risk department. Yeah. Big department, many people. And then there is one person or 2 persons, and they know everything about the car industry in the whole world. And this come back to me and they say, hey, Mercedes had a problem with this car in Guatemala, so that may affect in 3 months the business in the Netherlands. And they knew exactly, they had all the data. I bet you, I go in the risk department of ING. Is there somebody for water? Half a person. Well, we're lucky if there's even half a person. Yeah? It's not. And maybe one thing on the positive side, there's another Dutch bank, Rabobank. They start to understand the importance of water. So now what they're doing, they're setting up a separate unit. They just started to start looking at water. Getting data, understanding, seeing it a bit of more as a market. Yeah? So I just want to, that's a positive side. So thank you for sharing with us your struggles. Thank you very much for sharing with us also on the financier side. I really, really hope that in a couple of years' time we have moved on, you know. This is not about 90% government finance, but at least we see more of private sector coming. So thank you very much for joining, for your contributions. I was happy to listen to you, and have a happy and inspiring forum for the rest of the week. Thank you. Thank you.
Ik heb een villa met informatics, dus ik moet gaan.
Check, check. Check, check.